Hello, welcome to International Student Orientation. Could I have the next slide, please? My name is Katie Russo. We are so excited that you are here today. Just a few logistics before we begin. Make sure you can all hear me. Yes. So you can see and hear us. We cannot see or hear you. You can ask questions in the comment box on the right side of your screen. And so you'll see two question boxes with a question mark. That's where you can type questions, and we'll go through those at the end. Closed captioning is available, so just look for the CC button in the bottom right of your screen. Can you please forward to the next slide? So like I said, my name is Katie Russo. I am the Assistant Director of Intercultural Programs. And so today we're going to talk about preparing for life in Dallas, Texas. So of course, moving to a new country takes a lot of planning. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those things you need to do in order to plan to move to Dallas and how you can prepare before you start and what are some things that you'll need to do once you get here. So I'm going to be presenting. Again, my name is Katie Russo. And also I'm going to introduce Flower. She is our student worker, so I will let her introduce herself. Flower, would you like to say hello? Oh, you are muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Katie. As Katie mentioned, my name is Flower Mwangi. I am a finance major and I'm currently a junior, and I'm originally from Nairobi, Kenya. And I'm super excited to be presenting this with Katie so that y'all can have a little taste of what Dallas has to offer and hopefully what your life will be like in a few months when we're all able to get back together. Thank you. Headed back to Katie.
Thank you, Flower. I love that. A little taste of what Dallas has to offer. Yes, Dallas has so many awesome things to offer. And so I'm very excited to share some of those with you. Could I have the next slide, please? So first off, of course, you need to find a place to live, right? So UTD has on-campus housing. And so there's so many benefits to living on campus. It's close to classes, right? And all the campus amenities. As you can see by the pictures, there's pools in some of the on-campus housing locations, and I mean the gym, right? Close to campus. There's 24-hour on-call staff, so there's that safety. One thing to note, it fills up fast. So I've included the link here. You can see the availability checker for housing. So you can take a look at that link to see what is available for on-campus housing. It does require a partially non-refundable application fee. So that means you have to pay a fee to apply. Some of that might get refunded if you don't get accepted into on-campus housing. Maybe that spot isn't there for you, and some of it won't get refunded. There's two different types of on-campus housing. So one is the University Commons, and that is traditional dormitory style housing. So this is what you might have seen in your undergraduate institution. And so we would be living with a roommate. It is suite style, which is kind of nice. So you'll share a suite with other students. It doesn't have kitchens, but it is fully furnished. And then there's apartment style. There's two different apartment complexes on campus. One is University Village. It's completely unfurnished, and so you would have to provide your own furniture. The other is called Canyon Creek Heights. That's the university's newest. It opened a few years ago, and it is completely furnished. So there's a few different options for where you might want to live if you choose to live on campus. And you can look at the website to see all the different options and apply. Next slide, please. So you might also want to live off campus. So some tips for when you're searching off campus. Think about how close is it to campus? What amenities are provided? So, you know, is there a pool? What is the safety looking like? What types of appliances are in the apartment? All those kinds of things are different amenities. Of course, how much does it cost? You know, we all have a budget, and the utilities cost. So we'll talk about that in a minute. The size. So how many people are living with you and how many people can live in an apartment? There are certain laws of, you know, only a certain amount of people can live per bedroom. So think about that, and you'll be able to find that information usually on the apartment's website. How close is it and how easy is it to access stores, restaurants, public transportation, all of that, and safety and appearance of the neighborhood. So is it a gated community that you have to use a key code to get into the community? You know, are the locks very safe on the doors? Is there a patrol that goes around the community? All those types of things. How safe does it look and how comfortable do you feel in that community? So those are some things to think about when you're looking for a place. Next slide. All right, so most apartments will include a refrigerator, a stove, and an oven. Some include a dishwasher. That's always a benefit, right? But some make sure you're the dishwasher. Some include a microwave, and some include a washer and dryer in the apartment that you're actually living in. Some actually have one on the premises that you can maybe pay for to use. Some don't have it at all, and you have to go to a laundromat. So it just depends. Like I said earlier, those are some of those amenities that you might want to look for. Some of them actually have a swimming pool on the complex. Some might have a gym. Some might have some kind of community space that you can use, maybe like with a pool table or badminton or ping pong tables, things like that. Utilities might can't talk this morning, y'all, might cost extra. So look at that. Look at the policies on the website or look at the lease. Water, gas, electricity, internet service, TV service. See what the landlord pays for and see what you have to pay for. Those are all things to take into consideration because you want to make sure you know what is your final cost. That's important, right? Because we all have a certain budget. Next slide. All right, so we've talked a little bit about what to look for, but how do I find an apartment? So research the area. So looking online is something you can do from home. So there's a lot of places where you can look online and find online reviews of apartments. So I've listed some websites here. And these are sites that give apartment reviews. So I think I put about 4 of them. You can take a look and you can actually put in your zip code, which is your 5-digit postal code, to see the area and see what actual residents are saying about the apartment complex. And that's a really good way to look up apartments and see what's available and what people think of the apartment, what people think of the management of the apartment, all those types of things. Crime statistics. So I know we don't want to think about crime, but we are in a city. Dallas and Richardson are pretty big cities. And of course, there's always crime. And so it's a good idea to just be aware of that. And so you can find public data and crime mapping for neighborhoods. So you can look at the City of Richardson website, which I've included here, and you can look at Dallas City Hall. So those are 2 good resources to take a look at just to be aware of this. You can also check for pictures online. So of course, the internet is a beautiful thing, and a lot of apartment complexes have pictures of the interior and the exterior of apartments online. If not, maybe ask a friend if they could go and check out an apartment for you. Maybe you have a friend who's at UTD right now, and they could take pictures and send it to you. It's worth a shot, right? So the 883 Comet Cruiser. So this is UTD's bus system that goes around campus. I know Flower's going to talk a little bit more in detail about it, but there's so many apartments on the route. So this is a really good way to find some apartments. And so you can take a look at the Comet Cruiser map, and I've included the link here. A lot of students choose to live there just because it makes it easy. There is a Dallas off-campus housing site. And so I've included the link here. This is not affiliated with UTD. And so just to make you aware that UTD is not affiliated with this site, but they allow them to list this on the website just to make it easier for students to find off-campus housing. Another really great resource is cultural student organizations. So current students, right, they're currently living off campus, or I mean, maybe they're on campus, but a lot of students live off campus. Ask them, maybe they're looking for a roommate, or maybe they have a friend who needs a roommate. Maybe they just know about a certain apartment complex and whether they recommend it or don't recommend it. And so I've included a link to our housing page, the ICP housing page, and we have a list of a lot of cultural student organizations who've provided help to students in the past and how to get in touch with them. And so they'll also often give temporary housing if you need it as well. I know some aren't doing it right now for the spring just due to the pandemic. So that's something to keep in mind, but it doesn't mean you can't contact them and ask them for advice on finding an apartment. Next slide. Okay, so once you find your apartment, you'll need to submit an application to the apartment complex. So you can call them, you can email them, or you can check the apartment website for more information. Now, every apartment complex is going to be a little different. They might have an online application, or they might actually want you to mail something or fax something in. So it just really depends on the complex. Some require some type of application fee. It's usually non-refundable, and some type of deposit. Usually apartments will require an extra deposit if you do not have a US Social Security number. So most of you probably do not have that. So that's something to factor into your budget and your expenses. And this is really something that most companies and most apartment managers do, just because it's considered general practice. So just keep that in mind. I highly recommend that you read your lease thoroughly. So this is a contract that you're signing for at least 1 year, right? So you're agreeing to all the terms. So make sure you read it. So review the length of the lease. Make sure you know when it starts and ends. Make sure you know when is the date that you're allowed to move in, because if you're signing it, you want to know what's that first day that you can take the key and open the door, because you don't want to think that you can do it the next day and find there's someone else in there, right? When do you need to be out of there or re-sign a lease? What are the rules? So in my last apartment that I lived in, I discovered that I would be fined $500 for not cleaning my oven when I left, which to me is a ridiculous price, but it was in the lease and I did not read that. And so since I signed it and agreed it, I had to pay $500 for not cleaning the oven when I really could have just cleaned it, right? Cleaning an oven is not that complicated. But unfortunately, I was not smart and did not read my lease. So take it from me and read your lease. And if you have any questions about the lease, talk to the management company or the landlord, whoever you're working with, to work through that lease before you sign it. That's very important, because you should be confident and you should be certain that that lease is, you both understand exactly what you're signing. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so now that you have your apartment, you of course need utilities. The first one you should probably set up is electricity. So setting up utilities the first time is very intimidating. You've probably never done this before. So electricity, something I've discovered that's really helpful is this website. I think it's called Choose Texas Power. And this is a really great website. You can put in your zip code, your 5-digit postal code. And so you can even go check it out now if you know approximately where you're going to live and get a good idea. And it gives you different electricity plans that are available in the area. And so you can put in the postal code maybe of UTD, and you can take a look and see what is the pricing of electricity and what are the various companies that provide electricity. Things to consider are, when are you going to be using electricity? So you might not be in the apartment during the day because maybe you'll be in class. Maybe you'll only be there in the evening and on the weekends. How many electronic devices do you have? How much are you going to be using? Electricity can be a little tricky the first time you're setting it up. Once you start to understand your bill, so after about a year, you really understand it. So don't let it intimidate you the first time, but talk to your roommates too, so you can decide together. One of the nice things is a lot of companies will give you kind of a special introductory deal for your first year. Some of the companies will give you a discount maybe for the time of day. I've seen a lot of companies will say, well, electricity's free during this hour and this hour, maybe in the evenings or the weekends. And so that helps, right? That helps your electricity bill. And so that's why it's kind of important to consider different plans and see what deals they have and when are you going to be using electricity the most often, because then you can take advantage of some of those deals. And internet. So we're all on the internet now, right? And especially during the pandemic, we're all connecting to work and school remotely. So internet's important. Some of the internet providers that are really common in this area are Spectrum, AT&T, and Verizon. Keep in mind that not all providers are available everywhere. So it really just depends on where you're living to see what providers. And so the best way to do it is to kind of look at each of those websites and you'll be able to see what coverage is available for your apartment. You can also talk to current students and ask them what internet service they have and do they like it? What do they think? Current students are kind of your bread and butter, your gold. They'll be able to tell you exactly what they recommend. And so that's why I always recommend to students to ask current students their thoughts. But internet also has those different packages and deals that they'll offer you sometimes for those introductory things and, certain access. But remember to look for internet, service when it comes to, how often are you going to use it and what are you going to use? Because you might be, you might need a certain speed of internet and you might need a certain not data plan, but you might need a certain amount, I guess, of internet. Other things to look at is cable. So if you want to have cable service, you might be able to get a package deal with internet and cable. I know some of us are cord cutters and not using cable and just using like streaming services like Hulu and Netflix and all of that. So completely an option too. You might need to pay for gas in your apartment, and that just depends. You also might need to pay for water service and trash removal. Water service and trash removal are often paid for or provided through the city and grouped together in one bill. Sometimes those are included in the rent, sometimes they are not, so it just depends on your apartment complex. It's just something that you should take a look at, and that will usually be stated in the lease. Next slide, please. Okay, so banking. This is always a very frustrating one, but trust me, it's actually not that hard. So setting up an American bank account is something you want to do pretty quickly once you get to the US. So here in the US, there are so many different banks with so many different bank accounts, right? So banks typically have many different savings or checking accounts, and each one has different requirements and benefits. So take a look and research the accounts on their webpage so you understand which one is best for you, because everyone has different needs and different requirements. You can always call the bank staff and they'll be able to discuss your options and really help you set up an account. Sometimes you might be able to see if a bank is in network with the bank in your country. So maybe your bank in your home country is in network with an American bank, and that will make it really easy for you to facilitate setting up an account. You should be able to look online and see what you need to set up that account. So it's typically an ID, and your passport should work just fine, and some kind of initial deposit money. If you don't have a social security number, you'll often need another form of ID, such as a driver's license, maybe a university ID card or an I-20. Sometimes an acceptance letter from the university works fine, and it just depends on the bank's policies. Some of the banks near UTD, the larger banks, are Wells Fargo, which also has an ATM on the UTD campus, Chase Bank. I was able to contact them, and they told me that if you don't have a social security number, they just require an I-20 along with a passport if you don't have a social security number. So very easy to set up an account. Bank of America is also close to UTD, and BBVA, and they told me they just require your visa and passport if you don't have a social security number. So these banks seems like they're very easy for you to set up a bank account, and they make it easy for international students as well. Next slide, please. All right, so quick overview of some terminology. So a checking account, this is something you would use for daily use. Shopping, bills, making payments on things. It usually will not accrue interest. It'll typically be connected with a debit card. And so that's what you'd use to pay for things in shops or withdraw money from an ATM. And you can order paper checks from the bank if that's how you'd like to pay for things. A savings account is also a good idea. So that's good for saving money over the long term. So that's like I put, a certain amount of money in my savings account every month from my paycheck. So I can save money for larger purchases or just to have in case I need it. This will accrue interest, but it might have limitations on how often you can withdraw money. So that's because it's for saving money over the long term. A credit card. So this one's something you want to make sure that you don't get too trapped into. So a credit card, and that's just a payment card that allows you to pay for items throughout the month and make payments on as needed later. And so it does accrue interest on your charges. And usually that interest is very high. So sometimes like 14 or 15% of the amount. So if you just use a credit card to pay for everything during the month, maybe $600 or $700, and then it says it charges 15% interest, and you maybe only make the minimum payment of $50, and you keep a balance on it. That's a lot of interest it's charging. So you're paying extra money for something that you didn't really need, maybe. So credit cards are, can be beneficial because sometimes they give you reward points or things like that. But just keep in mind that, it's helpful for you to look at your expenses and make sure that you're keeping track of everything and not trying to use your money frivolously. Next slide, please. All right, well, now I am going to hand it over to Flower so she can talk a little bit about cell phones.
Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, so I'm going to kickstart on cell phones. So this is something that you definitely will need coming into the United States and just Dallas. Of course, you want to stay in touch with your families. You want to be able to get around, use the GPS. So you definitely need to be able to find a good phone plan that works for you. So when you're purchasing a cell phone plan, my first thing to tell you is that make sure you look into all the plans and contracts available, because very different plans will give you very different resources and just allow you to do different things. And you might need something. I'm sorry, can y'all hear me? Okay, perfect. I was looking at the image and I'm like, I look a little laggy and I don't want to be like vibing on and no one's hearing me. Thank you. Okay, so you definitely want to look at the amount of minutes that you have available on your plan. You want to look at what the charges are, the limits for the data usage, and even what the messaging plan is. So for some plans, you've got unlimited data usage and limited calls. And for some of them, you have to keep on topping up if you run out of your minutes that you paid for it. Excuse me. You also want to consider whether or not you need international calling, because it can get very expensive to make international calls. So times like you'd want to make sure either your plan supports it or you're using alternative sources like WhatsApp calling or WeChat or something that uses the internet instead of actually using like your data plan. Other items you need to consider are the services or coverage that you'll get and how much a mobile hotspot data you'll have. What type of devices are included in your plan, because some plans do come with their own mobile devices. So that's something that's very interesting about America, where you don't just use any mobile device on a plan unless it's like an unlocked device. A lot of them are connected to the device, to the plan. And if you like move from Verizon to like AT&T, or if you move to Spectrum, you will have to get a new device or get that one unlocked. You also want to talk to current students, because as Katie said, like current students know so much, and it's a wealth of resources, just the friends that you'll make on campus. Your cultural orgs will also have so much information on these plans, because they've all been through this and they all understand like the most beneficial and the most like pocket friendly plans out there. So definitely talk to people and ask for advice. And some of the popular cell phone providers we have here in the US are Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint. But we have so many others. We've got Cricket and just lots and lots of more providers out there. So it's all a matter of you finding the provider that works the best for you. And you can typically find a retail location for your chosen provider all around, or you can just call them online. They are all very willing to help and very on top of their service provision. Sorry. Next slide, please. So Katie had mentioned our Comet Cruiser, and I'll be going through how to get around the different transport systems that we have in Dallas that service the Richardson, Dallas area. So once you get to Dallas, you definitely want to be able to know how to get around. And Dallas and UTD in general have a really good public transportation system set up. So the Comet Cruiser Route 883 is a UTD bus system. And we typically just call it the Comet Cruiser, I think, for the most part. At least that's what I've heard with most students, or just the AA3. And it goes to campus, to and from campus, and to different locations all around the campus. So if you're living off campus, it would be good if you could find an apartment that's close to the little bus stop, so that you don't have to pay for an Uber or find any other alternative means of transport. It'll just be super convenient for you. So there are many shops, restaurants, and other places that are on the Comet Cruiser route. And the best part about it, totally free. If you're a UTD student, you do not have to pay any extra to use the bus service. So it is honestly amazing. You just get on the bus, you don't need to show your ID or anything, and you just stop wherever your stop is. So you are actually able to view the bus schedule online and just see where the bus is headed. And it is, I will tell you, it is always on time. The bus is never late. So if it says it'll be at 9 o'clock and leaves at 9:05, you rush there at 9:06, it's gone. So you definitely want to be on top of it. I've seen people running after it because they were late coming out of class or something. So you do not want to be rushing, and it's probably a 20-30 minute wait before your next bus comes around. So if you're looking to travel outside of the UTD area, you are able to use the DART system. And DART includes both a train and a bus system. You're able to go to downtown Dallas and into the surrounding areas using either the train or just hop on the bus. We've got a lot of DART stops, and you'll see a little sign at the stop that says DART, so you know that the bus will definitely stop there. So as a student, you're able to get a free pass once you register for classes. So all you need to do is you go to the transport office, and they will give you a DART pass that you stick on top. That you will stick on top of your Comet card, and you're able to use that to get on the bus. You're also able to view the bus schedule and the routes on the webpage, and your pass is free. So definitely take advantage of this, because moving around, Texas is very big. It's not one of those places that you can say, I'll walk from here to there. It will take you forever. And it's either really hot outside or it's chilly. So you definitely want to be able to know how to get around and just the most convenient ways for you. Also, if you plan to drive while you're in Texas, you will need to apply for a driver's license. You're able to visit the Texas Department of Public Safety's webpage, and you literally do your whole application online. You take your driving course online, take your driving test online. Well, at least yes, you do take it online. And it's super convenient. So if you know that you definitely want to get a car and be able to move around, get yourself a license. It's super easy, and you can use that instead of walking around with your passport as your form of identification. So super convenient, at least in my opinion. So for the test, you'll need to take a written test and an actual driving test. And you'll also need to go and get an eye test, just to make sure you've got good vision and all that. So if you do get a car, you will need to purchase a parking pass to park on campus. And they've got different tiers of parking passes depending on how much you want to spend on it. You can go for the most pocket friendly, or you can go for the one where you always find parking on campus. But I'll tell you, the secret to parking on campus is just knowing the different time slots from people getting in and out of classes. You will always find parking then. So you'll also be able to visit the UTD website, and you can read about all the different parking passes that we've got and just the different payment systems. And on campus, like the parking is like color coded, so you'll be able to see like what color pass you have and where it allows you to park on campus. Next slide, please. So now that you know how to get around, we're gonna get into my favorite part of this presentation, the food, okay? So let's talk about a little bit of shopping, how to get things around the UTD area and just in Dallas in general. So purchasing groceries may be a little different here than in your home country. And as mentioned, we have a lot of popular stores along the Comet Cruiser route, which makes it super easy and convenient for you, like get your groceries, go buy some clothes, anything you want that's shopping related, like everything is literally on the bus route. So Tom Thumb is one of the best grocery stores. Like it's super nice. I remember the first time I walked in Tom Thumb and I was just like, wow, like this is different. Like it looks very different from the shopping centers like and supermarkets that we have in my country. So it has a bakery, a pharmacy, and just a lot of other basic items that you might need. Walmart and Target are also super big and super popular, and you will see them everywhere. And they also have groceries, pharmacy, clothes, furniture, and just any household items that you may need. So I think that's like one of the best things about like the supermarkets here, where everything is inside the store. So you don't need to go to like 30 different stores just to furnish your apartment or to get groceries or something. The prices are actually very friendly, especially like Walmart and Target prices are very pocket friendly. So it's not gonna break your bank because you went and got groceries for the week. It's definitely gonna be something that you can sustain. Excuse me. So we also have a store called Sprouts, and it offers organic and natural foods, but the prices will definitely be a little higher because it's organic like food. So if you're into organic food, we definitely have stores that will cater to your needs. So just a few shopping tips to help you when you get around. So if a lot of the stores offer the groceries app, and I would tell you definitely get that. It is so convenient because for the most part, you're able to see what's in stock at your store before you get the store. You definitely don't want to make like your trip to store and half your items are not in stock at your particular like Walmart or Target. So it's always convenient to get an account, just be able to look things up easily. And the good thing I think for a lot of them, especially like the Target one, it'll tell you where specific items are, like the very aisle it's at. So that's super convenient, and you're not walking around for 40 minutes in the store trying to find a bar of soap, like you know where to go. You're also able to get coupons and just see online discounts on the app. So it's super convenient, saves you lots of money, and you're in the know. You're basically like their secret shopper, and they're like, here are all our deals online. I'd also tell you talk to your roommates about splitting up shopping costs because it can get expensive buying groceries, especially like if each person is getting like different things. So if y'all are able to find a system that works for you, just throw the idea out. At least you've offered it, and it's gonna save you guys a lot of money, especially cooking at home versus like eating out will save you a ton of money. Also, consider shopping in bulk. I personally realize like whenever I do like little shoppings all around, like if I buy little things here and there, I spend a lot more money because I'll get things that I typically do not need or had not planned for. So shopping in bulk definitely helps you like stay on track and always having a consistent shopping list. And often like larger items will cost you less, and they're definitely gonna like last you longer. So if you've got the room to store things in your apartment, definitely consider shopping in bulk for the most part. And also, as we all know, we're in a pandemic, so I'd definitely want to remind you that most stores do require that you wear a mask right now. It's our social responsibility, so it's good to keep everyone safe and to keep ourselves safe too. So if you are not comfortable with that, you do have online shopping options. So if you forget your mask, we've got curbside pickups. So you do not need to go into the store. And also, if you just don't feel safe walking around in a store full of people, you have options where you can have things either delivered to your house or you can just pick them up. And super convenient. I think that's my favorite. I've probably said that like 30 times because everything is like super duper convenient right now. Um, and also, don't forget to take into consideration your mode of transportation while shopping. You definitely don't want to have like 30 bags and you're on the Comet Cruiser, like trying to hustle everything that you're carrying around. So if you know you're like gonna shop in bulk, you can either take a cab where you know you can fit all your goods inside, or you can ask one of your friends who has a car to like drive you to the store, you know. So biggest thing, always be vocal about what your needs are and someone will be willing to help you out. And look for the convenient ways, look online and just utilize all the resources that all the stores have for us. Next slide, please. So, home country food, we all know nothing beats getting to your house and you know you've got all the ingredients ready and you're just smelling whatever you've made, whether it's a curry or it's pilau or just whatever it is. So there are a lot of international grocery stores in the area, and a few popular ones that we have are Patel Brothers and Indian Bazaar for Indian food, H Mart, which has a variety of food from Asian cultures, so Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese food is like you'll definitely find all the groceries you need. Fiesta is also a really large grocery chain that offers Mexican food. And we also have the Central Market, which is basically an organic grocery store and it offers food from around the world. So wherever you're from, Central Market, chances are they've got it there. So it's definitely worth to look at. However, I would definitely want to give you a little caveat that the prices at the specialty grocery stores will tend to be a little higher, which makes sense because like they're importing a lot of stuff. So if you need like your curry, like I'd say like save it for a few days in the week. Don't do it every single day because it might cost you a little more to get the groceries. Next slide, please. And now on to restaurants. I told y'all, food is definitely my favorite one, and I'm definitely got all the food knocked out. So we always want to treat ourselves once in a while. Don't want to be slaving in the kitchen like every single time, unless you really enjoy it. Like definitely if that is something that you find therapeutic, cook as much as you can or bake as much as you can. But for the once in a while where it's a special occasion or something, we've got a lot of restaurants that offer lots of delicious, delicious, delicious food all around. So you have to remember one big thing that a lot of people notice that in the US, first thing is leaving a tip. It is always customary to leave a tip for your server. It's super polite. They're super nice and they do a really good job. So it's always good to tip them a little extra. And typically 15 to 20% of your bill is like the angle, like the range that you want to work with. Because at times like you don't want to tip a little too little, but you also don't want to leave like an equivalent of your bill and feel like you're obligated to pay them the same amount that you bought your food for. So 15 to 20%, just work that in and you'll be able to live a sufficient tip. So you can vary depending on the service received. Believe me, that is up to you to decide if you want to give them 15% or the full 20%. Like if they did a great job, of course, tip them for their amazing service. But if you're like, okay, we had some hiccups here, or you don't feel like giving the full amount, that is up to you. It's your money. You do what you will with it. But it's just like super polite to leave a tip for your, sorry, to leave a tip for your servers. So some of the restaurants in the face of the pandemic have actually opted for curbside pickups, and it is super nice because you still get the same restaurant style food, but now you don't have to sit in a room full of other people or wait in line for 30 minutes because the capacity at restaurants has been significantly reduced. So the wait times are a lot longer. So it's definitely a lot more convenient for you, like get your food online, pick it up, go enjoy your meal at home. And I will tell you one thing, like because of COVID, like yes, the dine-in restaurant, like dine-in is welcome, but you need to remember, always have a mask on. Don't put anyone else at risk, you know, just you walk in with your mask, but they don't force you to sit in. Like if you're sitting down eating your food, don't worry, you can take it off and have a nice conversation with the people at your table and enjoy your meal. You'll typically just want to make sure you have a mask on before your food gets served, while your server is like talking to you, just to make sure that they're also safe. Keep your mask on so you're not exposing them to anything or just making them feel like they're at risk. Just make their day a little easier. It's always helpful to also check restaurant policies. For instance, I have a little dog and not every restaurant accepts puppies or pets there. So it's always good for you to like check restaurant policies before you and your little pup friend or just any policies that they may have. So if you're not able to see the policies online and you have like a question, you're more than welcome to like call the restaurant and they will definitely clear up any doubt that you may have. So be sure, like, make sure before you go to the restaurant, you know what they allow and what they don't allow at the restaurant. Also, you may want your food delivered. If you don't feel like you want to drive all the way to a restaurant, but you want the food to come to you, we have lots of amazing websites and applications that just make it super easy to get your food delivered to you. So we've got DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and Favor. And the good thing about them, a lot of them do have like discounts and just like promotions all the time, so it's not always like super expensive. Like you might be lucky. I know for a lot of them, like your first delivery is usually free, so definitely check them out. And they do cater to almost all the restaurants. A lot of restaurants will have their own personal like delivery, and you can confirm with the restaurant like whether they use like Uber Eats or what they use to get their food delivered to you. So it's always good. The internet is one of your best resources. Look stuff up, look restaurants up, look at their policies, and just call if you've got any questions. Next slide, please. So we have lots of restaurants that are along the Comet Cruiser route, and they are like super nice. Let me not lie to you. I know I've had my little dashes in the middle of class, like if I've got like a 2-hour break in middle classes, I definitely will like, okay, let's go eat something somewhere. So the food in the US is very diverse as the culture that's here. Like we've got lots of people from different places. And since Dallas is a large city, it does cater to a lot of the different tastes that you may have. So if you feel like eating Mexican food today, there's always a Mexican restaurant around the corner. If you want Italian, whatever you feel like eating, you've got a restaurant that caters to that taste, honestly. So there is a very big like list. Like if you go online and just like look up restaurants near me or just specifically like any type of restaurant that you want, you'll have a whole list pulled up, and it's super amazing because then you have all the reviews on there and you can pick whatever restaurant you want, and you're also able to see like whatever their menu, what they serve on the menu online, which is super convenient because then, you know, if it doesn't seem to attract you, you've got a different restaurant that you can try out. So Google Maps and Siri Maps, like they're all just great resources, and they help, you know, like I personally use them to get around a lot. So you'll be able to know how far the restaurant is, where it is, what it serves. You're able to go onto their Yelp page and just see the reviews that people have for the restaurants. And it's just an amazing way to try out new restaurants that are around you, and an amazing resource overall. So I hope this presentation definitely gave you insight on the things that you guys like have and the things that you are able to get here in Dallas. And I will now pass it on to Katie for us to go through the Q&A.
Thank you, Flower. I had to unmute myself. So I've opened up our Q&A section. Like I said, you guys can post any questions you have. So we'll wait a little while for you all to ask questions. Flower has made me very hungry talking about all the food around UTD. I have not eaten breakfast yet, so now I want breakfast tacos. Oh. Yes. Yes, there's some really good, that's the cool thing about UTD. I feel like it's in a really good location with a lot of stores, a lot of restaurants, a lot of conveniences that are so easy to get to. Even just walking, it's nice. I think it's great. like Flower was saying, when she's had a break from classes, she goes to, you know, some of the restaurants that are on the Comet Cruiser route. Like, I've honestly walked across the street to some of the restaurants that are just across the street from campus. Like, there's a taco place called Fuzzy's. Yum.
Fuzzy's is so good.
Oh, Fuzzy's is delicious. It's like a local taco chain it's very popular. So I highly encourage you, when you get here, to do your best to safely check out restaurants. Okay, we do have a question. Where can we find accommodation to be in quarantine for 14 days? Okay, so at the moment, and Leticia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the university is not requiring spring students to quarantine for 14 days before they arrive on campus. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this might change based on CDC rules. However, if you do feel like you need to quarantine, you do have the option. You can choose a hotel around campus. And so we have some hotels on our ICP housing page that are listed. And I will also find, I have a page that the housing office actually negotiated some deals with hotels for UTD students earlier in the fall that have some options for rooms as well. So I will find that page and post it for you guys as well. So let me see if I can find that. And let me know if that didn't answer your question appropriate or properly. Do we have any more questions coming in yet? Let's see. Looking for more information. We'll find that. Let's see. Will we be allowed on the Comet Cruiser without a university ID card? Flower, do you know the answer to that one?
Yes. So
Yes.
the good thing about the Comet Cruiser, you literally just get on it and get off wherever you want. No questions asked. Just as long as you got your mask on, you're good to go.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a UTD student. The Comet Cruiser is free for anyone, so no ID is required. It's completely free. So it's actually not, it's helped managed by UTD because it's part of UTD, but it's actually part of the DART system as well. So it's kind of a coordination between DART, the Dallas Area Rapid Transit, and UTD. So anyone in the city can ride the Comet Cruiser. Will we be picked up by ISA? Okay, so will we be picked up by the Indian Students Association? So as of right now, we have not gotten approval for any airport pickup service due to the pandemic. And so we are working on other opportunities that we're looking for with the university. And so if we do have some type of option, we will share that, but we have not gotten anything quite yet. And so we will be able to share that once we do. Any other questions? Sometimes people take a while to type. Flower?
Yes.
I was going to ask you something. So what is like one recommendation you would make to all new students like coming to UTD?
That's a good one. I think the biggest thing I tell them is, I know it's very different right now, like, because we're all virtual, but it's just getting to know people. Because like you'd said before, like, people are a wealth of resources, and there's so many things, like even like first signing up for classes and just like systems that I didn't know the university had in place, like even resources I didn't know about that the people I interacted with like helped me figure out. So I definitely say getting to know people, like even virtually, like we have like the chat rooms for all the classes. So like just, hit someone up and be like, oh, hi, I'm so and so, like just make a friend out of it. You'll definitely, it will make life a lot easier.
Yeah, that's true. Making those connections, even virtually, it makes everything better. So, because I know we're all missing our social connections right now.
Yes.
Absolutely. Can I use my OnePlus phone in the USA? I am not familiar with OnePlus phone. Flower, are you familiar with that?
Um, I'm assuming like OnePlus is the brand of the phone itself, I think.
Tamara or Leticia, are you familiar with OnePlus?
No, not really.
No? Okay.
Okay, yes. I just looked it up.
Okay.
It's the actual phone. So if the phone is unlocked, then you are able to use it here because then it can like work with any provider.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not unlocked, you'd probably have to get it unlocked so that you can use it here.
Yeah. Yeah, like Flower said, most phones are kind of locked specifically to a provider, and you'll see advertisements sometimes on websites of like, oh, this is an unlocked phone, so that means you can have it on any provider's network. So yeah, if your phone is an unlocked phone, then that seems like it would work.
Oh, and just like one other thing, since we're in the topic of phones, like if you want to switch providers, you don't have to change your number. They typically just transfer you over to the new provider.
Yeah, I have had the same cell phone number for the last, 15 years. And I've been on at least 3 different cell phone providers. I will never change my cell phone number because it is my number. Yes, forever. I'm a Cleveland girl, so that's my cell phone area code.
Gotta keep it.
I have to keep it, yes. But I liked that you talked about the apps that could be used for, international calling. WhatsApp, WeChat is also a good one. That's how I stayed in touch with my brother while he lived in China. So WeChat actually works very well in the US to video chat with family and voice call with family and friends and whatnot.
Oh yeah, because I know those international calls can rack up hundreds of dollars in bills.
Yes, my brother told me never try to call because you will be spending a lot of money. So he told me just use WeChat.
It's kind of like all those apps have like the video function, so you're still able to see your people.
Yeah, it's great. Thinking. So I know some of this information was a little different just because of the pandemic, but I hope it helped. I know searching for apartments, might feel a little bit different, but there's so much you can do from home while you're online, getting some things arranged and set up. I feel like actually one of the things that the pandemic has almost made easier for us, and I think, Flower, you mentioned this, is making things more conveniently found online, which makes it easier for all of you to be able to find it from home. And so being able to find the information easier and, ordering your groceries online. I loved, I forgot to mention that in the slide, and Flower, you brought it up. So thank you for mentioning that, is that, I do curbside pickup with all my groceries because I do not feel comfortable going into a busy grocery store, even with a mask on. I like to stay safe. What phone do you suggest to use? Well, we really can't make recommendations, so I think it just depends. So, like Flower said, there's several different companies like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Cricket, several different phone service companies, and then each phone service company has multiple types of devices you could use, Android devices, iPhone, Galaxy, you know, all sorts of them. I think it depends on what you're comfortable with. It really does. Like, some people want iPhones and that's what they want. Some people prefer the Galaxies or the Androids. Some people prefer, my dad, he's 75 years old, wants a flip phone. I'm sure you don't. I'm sure y'all don't want a flip phone, but my dad does. So yeah, it took a while to convince my dad to get a smartphone. But it really does depend on your choice. And so I think that you can pretty much choose any of the phones you want, any of the smartphones, anything like that, you know, depending on what works best for you. And I think you just have to do your research. Like, for example, my husband loves the Galaxy Notes with the S Pen that pops out, so he can take notes in his business meetings when he's at work. I personally I had one of those. I never used the S Pen. In fact, it kept falling out and beeping at me because I would lose it and it would drive me crazy. So I switched to one without it. You know, so you kind of just have to, yes, Flower, I see you're laughing at me. So you just have to think of what works best for you. Most likely the phone, the phone you might have is actually one that you probably could switch to when you're in the United States. I know that, the iPhones and the Galaxies and Androids, and there's even Google phones. They're everywhere, so you probably have an opportunity to use those here in the US too. So, but like Flower said, talk to some of those student organizations. If you look at the UTD Student Organization Center, I'm going to post that. You'll be able to connect with any student organization, especially some of those cultural orgs, and that's how you can connect. And it doesn't have to be a cultural org, but it can be anyone. And so you'll be able to, ask students. There we go. I just posted the link to explore some of those student organizations. And so you can check with them about that information, what their recommendations are. Oh, okay. So we had that question about some area hotels, and I'm going to post that. Thank you, Tamara, for finding that for me. This is why my staff is a good team, guys. All right, so we have just another couple minutes left. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them now. I'm so glad that all of you attended today. Seems like you had some good questions. I hope you're all looking forward to coming to the US. So this is our last session for this semester, this year, actually, and we'll have more sessions in January. So make sure to check our orientation website, and I can post that for you. I hope most of you have seen it. So we're going to have a few sessions virtually, of course, before the first week of classes. So even if you're here in the US, you can still watch them virtually. Or if you're at home, you could still watch them virtually. And so please check out the ones that we have so you can participate. More information that will be helpful for you before you start classes. So, of course, you'll get to see us again. No other questions? All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions. Oh, Leticia, thank you. So Leticia just posted some other hotel information with some contact information. So the person who is asking about some space to quarantine, that's some information that the UTD Housing Department, I believe, made arrangements for a special UTD pricing. So you can talk with them. All right, and I am going to put our email address. So please reach out to us if you have questions maybe that you didn't get answered during this session. You are more than welcome to send us an email, and we would love to hear from you. But we will hope to see you in our next sessions in January. But thank you so much for attending today. And we will see you next semester. Goodbye.